Welcome to the hand signal to verbal lesson. Once your dog has a behavior on a hand signal, you can transition to teaching a verbal cue. Make sure when you are giving your verbal cues that you only say them once. You want your dog to respond the first time you say something. If you need more information on this, make sure to view a note on cues. Why is it important to teach a verbal cue when you already have a hand signal? For some behaviors, it's much easier for us to say a word than it is to give a hand signal. Imagine you have your hands full with groceries and you need your dog to sit. It'd be a real hassle to put all of your groceries down to give a hand signal. To transition from a hand signal to a verbal cue, you will be doing what's called a cue transfer. To do this, you give the new cue first, then half a second later, give the old cue. When the dog does the behavior, mark and reward. First, pick a behavior your dog knows a hand signal for. This should be a behavior that your dog responds reliably to the hand signal for. That means when you give the hand signal, your dog responds correctly and promptly at least 80% of the time. Once you've picked a behavior, try giving your new verbal cue one time and then follow the verbal cue with the old hand signal. Then, mark and reward when your dog does the behavior. Reset your dog and repeat multiple times. Once your dog does the behavior just on the new verbal cue, give them a jackpot reward. If you're unfamiliar with what a jackpot reward is, it's giving your dog multiple rewards one after the other. You can also add in a lot of praise and excitement. If your dog is struggling to get just the verbal, you can gradually fade out the hand signal by making it less obvious. When you're picking a verbal cue, you can pick whatever cue you want and what makes sense to you. Typically, people will just pick what they call the behavior. It's a good idea to pick verbal cues that are clear and are difficult to confuse with other behaviors. For example, sit down and lie down can be easily confused and are a little too long. Instead, you could use sit for sit and down for lie down. That's it for this lesson. Remember that it's really important that your dog understands the hand signal before you start to transition to a verbal cue. Remember to separate your cues and be careful not to deliver them at the same time, as it can become confusing for your dog.